You're still watching the AM show, and we're just about beginning our conversation on women's empowerment in political processes. But today is a day dedicated for us to look at diabetes. And so we'll have a conversation on diabetes coming up. If you're already on medication, you need some doctor's advice. It's coming right at you. But how else can we also begin to check and take care of ourselves better if should we be diagnosed of the disease? More on that as we observe World Diabetes Day today. But in all countries around the world, women's interest and ability to participate in the political process is impacted by a combination of so many things. You can talk legal, political, socio-economic, and cultural factors. We're breaking the issues down today. Today we want to understand how each of these factors independently affect women's participation in the political process here in our country. Ultimately, we want to see a rise in women's leadership. This is actually the beginning of a bigger conversation. We actually have a series and we will bring the women who are taking part in this year's election. We'll have conversations with them. We'll bring it to you here on the AM show. But let's start off today with a conversation with Dr. Samson Obedapia, who is a lecturer, University of Ghana Sociology Department. Thank you so much for your time, for being on the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
So I want us to maybe perhaps just start off with the obstacles that affects women in this part of our world.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that we have to start looking at it from the point of view of the socialization process.
Okay.
I believe that in societies where women are empowered and given opportunity to be part of decision making and politics, the process starts from the socialization, from the early stage when the child is given birth to. But the problem in our part of the world, in our part of the developing country, traditionally the socialization is done in a way that women are seen as people whose place is the kitchen. This is when it comes to the issue of socialization, educating the women, there's a problem giving adequate education to the women. And I've always said this in my classes, that at times you realize that even unconscious, even women who are mothers, we try to do the socialization in a way that doesn't favor the female child. For example, if you are buying toy for the children, what do? We buy the dolls for the girls and buy the guns for the boys. Indirectly, we are saying that girls are supposed to be very quiet, dull, etc., whilst the boys must be aggressive and assertive. And normally, even in schools, when girls become very assertive and very intelligent, we say that they are either witches or whatever. So I think that the problem starts from the socialization process. As I said, in other societies, realize that children, irrespective of their gender or their sex, are given the equal opportunity to express their talent or their skills. So I think that it starts with the socialization. That conscious effort to always make the girl child or the woman feel inferior traditionally can be point out to be the main cause. Yeah.
Back to the toy example that you gave. Is it not a fact that girls are different from boys and they are not the same?
Yes, they are different from boys, they are not the same. I think it goes back to the conversation I've always had the other time here, that the issue of gender inequality and stratification is social and not biological. Nature or God did not say that a woman cannot be a pilot or something. It's the society which says that because you're a woman or a man, you cannot do this. So yes, they are different, but the problem is that when society begins to say that because you're a woman, you cannot do that is what the problem is. You see, the point is, girls should also be trained or from the beginning to be able to do things irrespective of whether they are a girl or a boy. But the problem is that we consciously or deliberately and in the very common traditional setting is it where there are even clear-cut what we call sexual division of labor. Because you are a girl, and as time they are homes, they even tell you clearly that as a boy you can't go to the kitchen. It's the girls whose duty is to do that. So the problem is that when we deliberate, and it comes to the issue of politics and decision making. So you realize that the girls are not given that confidence. And I've always said this before, back at my primary school, even why do we say that we have a separate position for a girls prefect? The senior prefect is always a boy.
Yeah.
Why should that be the case? You see, so I realize that when we enter the university, you're talking about SRC president, now you are now allowing the girl. The girl have not gotten that preparation from the primary background where he knows to. And recently, for example, in Lagos, when we have an SRC president with a woman, for a long time, when I was a student, 2004, 2005, a lady stood on campus, and I can tell you, she got the lowest vote from Volta Hall. That should tell you that even the ladies, the females themselves, don't see their own as somebody who is cut enough to do their job. So I'm saying that the socialization process is very, I mean, the process that in a way puts the girl in a position where she cannot be so assertive. And at times, you see, as we move on to the educational ladder also, I have a personal experience where in the primary school, I had this teacher who always call and insult us, the boys, for a girl, I mean, beating us in class academically. And virtually, we had to virtually label the girl as a witch. She's not a medical doctor. And she was
so you're a boy. Why do you sit down
yes,
for a girl to pass you?
This lady was very intelligent, and virtually we had to label as a witch because the letter said that oh, the grandmother was a witch in the village. So you see, the problem is that and I was amazed the teacher the way he continuously did it, and we came to understand that yes, this girl was not intelligent after all, she was a witch or something. So when that socialization from the home, and at times even when mothers even have to decide which of the children to even give education, that cultural or traditional, I mean, factors affect that.
Haven't we come a long way? Haven't we gotten to the point where we're almost doing everything that the men are doing? There are a lot of women who are fighting to want to be in parliament, even though sadly, but there's also the other thing. Should I, as a woman, vote for you or get you into parliament just because you're a woman and I want to see a lot of women in parliament? That can't be the reason I should vote for my fellow woman.
Yeah, but I think that, let me take the first part before I come to them, why a woman cannot vote, a man or not. See, the point that we have done a lot, as I've said always in my gender studies classes, that yes, over the past 10, 15, 20 years, for example, Ghana have done a lot issue about female child education and empowering women. But the problem is that, you see, there's still that traditional or cultural or social barrier or factors that still affecting women, especially in politics. Now, when I look at the issue of women in politics, I feel sad a little bit. Look at our parliament, for example. We have 275 members of parliament. How many are women? 31. So that should clearly tell you that there are still socio-cultural barriers and factors. For example, the issue about resources, control over resources. And that can be traced by the traditional setting, where the belief is that the woman does not have access directly to traditional resources, land, etc. For example, in most traditional societies in Ghana, when it comes to the issue of inheritance, women are denied because of the fact that the societies are patrilineal. If you're a woman, the land will go to another person if you marry out of the lineage. In fact, I told my student story where in the north there's a common sympathy of society that a woman is a property and she can't own a property. She has been married, so she's a property who cannot own a property in a husband's house. So you see, so invariably, when it comes to the control of our resources, the woman is deprived. And you see, we know in this country that resources are very important when it comes to political party, elections. Now, the other issue is about the fact that there are a lot of cultural norms and practices and beliefs against women. And you see, that can also be explained in terms of the kinds of beliefs we have, the kind of things we say about our own women, the kind of invectives we say about them. So the point is that when it comes to the issue of why women cannot vote for their women, it is also because of that cultural belief. And I've always given an example that even in situations where women themselves are the heads of the household and are supposed to take decisions as to which of them to socialize, you see the one thing is to socialize the man. Because of that, I give an example of myself. I had a twin sister. I finished BC. I got 7, she got 9. My mother was a single mother. There was no money in the house. Who should go to their good school? She decided that because I'm a man, I should go to Maoli school, so the good school. And the explanation was that after the female, she may become pregnant when she goes to school. You see, she's a woman. But the problem is that the cultural beliefs and factors that still affected her decision making, the traditional beliefs. So the point is that women may not come out to vote for their own women also because of still this, and it does go back to the point that I made of socialization. That when we are socialized and we are told that, oh, the woman is the kitchen, the woman cannot do this. So that is why, and I think that is something that we need a lot of education and socialization about. Let's re-socialize people that, yes, the fact that she's the woman doesn't mean she can't do it. Once she's competent. And the issue about just voting for one, I also believe that there are a lot of competent women who can fill those positions. And it comes out to the issue about the fact that it is also because of our perception and attitude towards women. There are issues. I have professors in Legon in past when they were approached by people in government to say, they said no. Why? Because of the sort of things people say against women in politics.
But they equally say those horrible things against men.
Yes, but the point is that those things are said against men. But it is because of the kind of cultural and social-cultural factors of practice. You see, it is more likely for a woman people to say those things are against men, and still the man will be able to go, because at least it's a society where it's patriarchal, where men dominate, and those cultural beliefs of factors do not so much go against the men. But those things are, socialized, and they become institutionalized. So when these people do those things deliberately or say it, it becomes a means by which the woman becomes, affected. And I tell you, there are a lot of them who are competent, who will not want to go, because the person will tell you, people who are not even worth enough to even, will even saw them and say things against them. So I think that it comes back to the socio-cultural beliefs and practices, and also the situation where our society have become a way where we feel that it is the man's, world to do those things.
I tell you what, it's as if you want to run for any public office, you have to go back into your life from secondary school through to the university and make sure you didn't mess yourself up there, because somebody would definitely pull those debts and say, oh, this is what she's always done. She's always had her way. She's always slept with people. Even if genuinely you were in a relationship with people and it didn't work and you moved on, people will begin to bring those things back and say, oh, you see, she slept with this, she slept with that, she slept with that. And so she slept her way through where she is now. Even though some men will also sleep around, but nobody will use that against them. It means that we're never going to see ourselves as women in a lot of leadership positions, because we would always have some baggage that somebody can use against us, and we will not be able to stand it.
Yeah, but as you rightly said, it's out of the issue of baggage. Both genders or sexes may have it. You see, but the point is that I said earlier on, it is still also because of the kind of perceptions that we have. You see, men can do it and do, but people may still use it, but it may not sink so much. But you see, the point is because we've already pre-conscientized our minds that, oh, she's a woman. So when people bring those issues out, people are likely to think, say, okay, well, we said it, that women will always, a woman will always, can't connect. But the truth is that I think that it also comes back to the point that we need as a society to realize that, you see, and go back to advanced societies, that I said from beginning, it is the socialization where people accept that women can do those things. It starts from the socialization aspect, the primary, the secondary school. So the woman is given enough opportunity to be able to do that. So I think that we need to rethink about some of these things. That even when those things are, I heard something the other day, and I was so impressed when the woman said that the fact that she has been married and have a divorce doesn't mean she cannot be in party politics or cannot take decision. So why would somebody use that thing against the person? But it's because, you see, people know that when they say those, even some of the women themselves will buy into it and begin to doubt their own fellow women's capabilities or ability to do that thing. So I think that we seriously need to look at those things and have a conscious effort to make sure that those things are not used. Because, and as you said, there are people who have fought their way to, and you see, the truth is that women have gone through difficult situations just to make it through school. Some of the things that we men go through, the women have gone. I normally give an example of my twin sister. She went to a day school, and when I come back home from boarding and I see the stress she goes through doing the house chores and still taking her books to learn, I always said, even though I did well in the SSC, I feel she did better than me, because I was in the boarding house, was not doing house chores. But look at the way she struggled the way to be able to get to where she is today. So, and unfortunately, we don't appreciate or quantify those contributions. So we think that which is the normal thing for her to do the house chores. If the man is supposed to do those things, we may not have been where we are today.
One critical question: how can the women taking parts in this year's, let me put it, political process, how can they better sell themselves? How can the women who are also looking on also better support them?
Yeah, I think that so far I'm trying to look at the number of women who are contesting, and I believe that is why it also comes back to the process itself. When does it start? And I was saying that I think one of the parties had a very brilliant opportunity when this was about reserving some seats for women came. I think that, see, we can start from there, because, see, the terrain is not as easy as we see it. In countries like Rwanda and Congo, we have a lot of women in their parliament. They have safe seats. So, for example, I'll be explaining, for example, some part of the Volta or Ashanti region, the two parties could say that we know that these are seats that no matter who goes. So we get competent women, not any woman.
But if it's a safe seat, then they will not invest in looking for competent women. What it means is anybody, as soon as you're a woman, you can stand and you'll win. It's a safe seat for us.
I think that they can do something about that.
Would it come with respect?
Of course, they can. And that's why I always believe and say that there are competent women in this country. Unless, of course, we have glossed over the fact that too. And it's also because many of those competent women are unwilling to go to politics because of some of the beliefs.
That's
and
another challenge, right? How do we overcome that?
Yes.
Because you gave an example of even at the university where you lecture, there are a lot of women who are competent. Sometimes it's even difficult talking to some of the women on some of the issues that bother us every day, because you know that they've got the capability of sharing their thoughts, which is really important, or even analyzing. But you find out that not many of them want to come forward.
Yeah, it's also because of the kind of things people will say and the kind of the cultural belief and practices that we have. You see, and the question of what can the women do? I think that yes, we are almost advanced to the election. That is what I was expecting to see the political parties have some kind of policies in their manifestos as to what can be done to women. Now, for the people that are going to vote, I think that people should begin to look at the competence of the women who are that. I have seen some places that I was amazed to see that some women were contesting, and I have said that yes, I wished those people would have seen the contribution of those women and give them their vote. But the problem is that we may not be able to get there until we do the basics. What are the basics? Let's go back to the society. And as I said, from the primary school level, the secondary school level, the universities, let's encourage women. I always do this in my class. When I see, irrespective of the sex, everybody who is very good or doing well, I encourage them. And so, you are good, you can do so. I believe that, and encouraging them to take part in the politics level at the secondary school, the universities. When we do that, we are trying to prepare them to become assertive and willing to go to the national politics when the time comes. For the other women who are voting, I think that we should be able to educate and empower them to know that, yes, what men are able to do, women are able to do better. And if you go back to Dr. Kwachiagri's statement, if you educate a man, you educate an individual, the problem is that is why I'm always more passionate about the socio-cultural issues, because the sociologies, those are things that if we don't check and work on, we'll still get there and still the number will still be low.
What kind of example, even though we have very few women in parliament, what kind of example do you think they've set for us over the years that people can even begin to see and say, oh, they did very well?
Yeah.
And so we need more women there.
Yeah, but I think that we can...
Have they been visible enough?
Oh yeah, I think some of them are very visible. Like you can mention those Lausus, the Hannah Tetes. I think that these are people that when we hear their contribution on the floor of parliament, they've done, even if you go to their constituencies and where they come from, most of them have done a lot. So I think that is your time, and don't also forget that we may not be able to, quantify their contributions, because see, whether you go back or not, there are still male-dominated structures will still go against them. Maybe you have a DC who is a man. Some of them may deliberately want to sabotage their contribution. And see, also, it's the kind of politics we do in our society. It's a bit, I call it cruel and, hot. Some men would deliberately want to undermine you as a woman.
Are there no strategies to fight that as
yes,
women? We can come up with some strategies.
That's I also think that is where the women themselves who are also there should also be able to say that this is our part of us. And it's about the time the irony for me is that you find that it's the women themselves who even at times are used against their own fellow women. And as I said, in 2000 and 2004, when I was in Legon as a student fan, I was amazed when a colleague of mine stood as the SSRC president, and we're surprised that she got the lowest vote in Volta. If you Commonwealth, which I was in Commonwealth, she got the highest vote in Commonwealth. So I began to ask a lot of ladies in Volta why, and some of them was like, oh, we know this person. I was like, no. Even if we in Commonwealth could say that, and see, at times it amazes me that they themselves, and at times it's also because of the kind of mindset we have. So I think that there are a lot of bad terrorists around, but the women themselves must come out and say that. And I see when it comes to the issue of education and empowerment, we've done a lot. When it comes to politics, I am not seeing that kind of. I've seen the Bantus, the Wildef and co, but I am expecting to see a lot of more effort in the issue of politics. What can we do? I remember during the district assembly election also, one of the NGOs tried to sponsor women to the district. And I think that's one area we are not looking at. I think that if we target those areas, gradually empower them as assembly women, after 2 or 3, 4 years of being assembly women, we can decide to what? Push them up.
How do we cure this issue of women not even seeing their colleague women as leaders?
I think that is something we need to, and I always ask this question to some of the ladies on campus. 2 years ago, a student of mine did a project work on conflict among roommates involved now. It was very interesting. Some of the petty issues that the ladies in their room, and I was like, I was in common for 4 years. Some of the things I hear them fight about, it's a normal thing. Somebody put his shoes somewhere, somebody put the pure water somewhere. You see, the point is that is where I believe women also need to understand that at least we can also support our own. Let's forget our differences. Is that I might say that why is that we guys are able to settle our issues at our various level, but when it comes to those petty issues, it's very difficult for them to let go. So I think that there should be a cautious effort by the women themselves, and that is why I believe that those who are role models can come out. I was telling a student of mine who's an MPhil student to do something on, I was looking at statistics about the number of women at the Ministry of Ghana Health Service, the chief director. So I was looking at the statistics. So let's try to identify some of the women who have gotten to the top as role models. Look at their lived experiences. What have they gone through? So that we can use that ability to encourage other women who are in that place to rise up to the top. So I think that we can also get women themselves. And today I'm a bit happy because we look at our secondary schools and universities, we have a lot of women today who are ladies today who are also catching up. So I think that if we continue, because as I told my student that about 20, 30 years ago, it was a taboo to even send a girl child to school. But today we've gone to the stage where people are becoming conscious.
Yeah.
You go to the traditional setting, even women are now even thinking about taking their own children to school. So I think that if we start that from that place and begin to educate the women themselves, conscientize them that these are our fellow women, let's support them, we can overcome some of those challenges.
But the hurdle is we do the education. You rise to a certain level. You want to cross over and get into public service. You need people to believe in you and give you their votes. The ordinary women out there don't see you. They feel, if I vote for a man, it's better. He's a better leader than a woman. Why should I give my vote to that woman?
So it comes back to socialization I raised from the beginning. Because we have been socialized from the beginning or from the childhood that the woman cannot do anything. And that is why I think that we need to go back and do the re-socialization. Now, the other thing I also want to quickly mention is that I say, at times I also see the women also need to do a lot of work. I've heard a lot of people interact with women, even when we tell you that even when the woman becomes the head, it becomes very difficult to work with. Seriously, I had an experience.
There are a lot of examples.
Yes, when my wife, who was working on I mentioned the bank's name, and when she gave birth and she go to work for 2 days because the baby, when she went back to work, what the woman did was very bad. And I was like, no, you can be a mother. Imagine your daughter goes to that situation. So I think that the women themselves who also need to begin to rethink. Because you see, what we are saying is very important. If you treat 2 or 3 women like that, they'll tell other people. And that is what happens in the traditional setting. Oh, about the woman, if you give it to her, or so I think that those are the thoughts. That's why I was interested in this lived experience thing with my students. Let's find out from the women who have gotten there. What did they go through? What are the things that they doing? So that if women themselves are beginning to treat their fellow women, and because as I said, you can agree with me, a lot of women want to work with men than women.
Oh, yeah.
Because of some of the things the women in the top positions do. So I think that and these are the things that trickle down. I go and tell my brothers about how my wife was treated. Do you think if a woman stands as MP, you vote for her? No. So I think that the women also need a lot of work there. That the father, and that I think I always say this, I say more about an inferiority complex. Seriously, Mama, I become a bit worried because as if they feel that they've got into the stage, so nobody have got in there. And I think it's something they need to work on. Because if you continue like that, most women or most people become disappointed, or we give this opportunity when it became the managing director or even the head of department. So I think that is an area I've always been concerned about. Because you have a lot of respect. People tell you, oh, my boss is a woman, and at times, and yes, some of them are very nice, some are very good, but I think that women need to work on that if really we want to get other women supporting them and the men even coming to their side to support them.
And sometimes instead of them being the leaders that they are, if you're a team leader or if you're a managing director or whatever, they begin to compete with those under them. So why is she able to wear that shoe that even me, the boss, I am not wearing? They begin to bring those petty things into the job. And in no time, the professional thing is gone. And it's all petty things against the women.
It's a serious thing that the women need to look at. Because last week, a friend or a student friend of mine who was the nurse was complaining about it, and she wants a transfer. Because the district director, and it's bad to the extent even that the job she's supposed to do is being given to somebody else, just because the director feels threatened, or even told someone that she doesn't like the way she dresses to work.
Can you imagine?
How can you use that?
Can you imagine? I had an experience. This was my friend at work, and she was. I mean, she's very stylish. She's still very much stylish, and she wears her best. She likes to look good. And then you have a woman boss who feels like that's a threat or that's some kind of competition that's coming my way. That's somebody's life.
Yes.
Can you let her be? You are the boss.
The person is performing her duty. And for me, it's a common thing. And the lady is now to the extent that she wants a transfer from the organization or from the place. And for me, I felt sad because I expected a woman. And my point always is, this young lady can be your daughter. So if somebody treats your daughter somewhere, how will you feel?
They don't think that way.
And I think that is something the women, and I always speak to some of them, why my boss, I said, we need to work on that. Because the complaint, and you see, it trickles down when people begin to have their mentality. See, when we do a lot of the education, I said, the empowerment, they get to the top and still they spoil all those processes. So I think that is something that the women need to work on.
Okay. Let me also just say that there are a lot of fantastic women leaders out there. Some women who do really, really well, even with their team members. But some also set very bad examples. And I guess that's all talking. Easily when you ask someone, what boss would you like? A lot of people will want to go for the men and not the women, even as women. So this is the beginning of a series of conversations that we will have as to how to get a lot of women involved in this particular process, even in this year, 2016, even as we go to the polls on December 7. But for today's conversation, it's always fun talking to you, really, because you break the issues down and you give us a lot of examples. We're able to relate. So I'm grateful to you for your time.
Welcome.
We'll see how